talk a little bit about one of the most difficult kinds of prayer, but also one of the most meaningful for me, and that is silent prayer. It is so easy to take for granted the gift of silent prayer, especially in days that are hurried, the kinds of lives that many of us lead that are rushed and full of distractions. It can seem like a real waste of prayer time to learn to live in silence. But I really urge you in this season to take advantage of the gift of God's time and the gift of silence. And you'll find instruction in Behold about how to do this, but I want to walk us through a little bit of a way to dip into this silence of God. The first recommendation I'd have is to really commit to it, to really assume that you will receive something in silence that you would not receive otherwise. So consider a time in your life when you could be silent, where you could find a place that was really quiet. So what you would do is you would go there and you would have an idea about how much time you would first be willing to spend. Say it's 10 minutes at the most at first. Then be present and go into some silence and just listen. Listen to what is around you. Don't worry if they distract you at first, those sounds. Just be present in the silence and listen to what you hear. And just wait. Remember to breathe. It is not the same thing, quiet and silence. They're different. Quiet is something that is around us. Silence is something we do. It means we don't speak. We are simply present to God in the everyday sounds that are around us. So we'd be present, and we'd remember to breathe, and we'd trust in the silence, and we'd wait. And as we get distracted, we would be gentle with ourselves, remember to breathe, and remember that the silence is full of God. We can thank God for what is around us. We can thank God even for the things that come across our minds that we thought were distractions, but at this point, they're part of the silence with us. But just stay with it. That's the urging. Stay with the silence and let it be part of a day. Let it be something that you go to and that you trust there's something in it for you. The hardest part about silent prayer, again, is committing to the time to show up and living in it and waiting in it and trusting in it. But God will be present to us in the silence. I know that silent prayer can be one of the more difficult prayers for many of us. It was for me until I really began to practice being in silence with God. But the more I've spent time in silent prayer and really cultivated this practice, I've learned that it is in silence where I really dream and become inventive and imagine life with God, and I feel creative in that space, in part because I feel that in silence there's no posturing. I'm really just who I am, and God is so present in that quiet space. It's hard to describe, but it allows me to really step beyond the kind of distractions that I'm so prone to give myself to. Whereas in silence, there's this space that is already there, and I feel close to God in ways that are just different than when I surround myself with words or trying to speak for what's on my heart. I'm just present, but it takes work to do that. It's so easy to take for granted what's in that silent space. So the dreamer in me, the imaginer in me, the confessor in me, all the things that I carry with me all the time and I'm trying to find words for, they're there in silence. And the more I expand that silent presence with God, I just have to say that I feel I'm being changed. My contours become more like God's contours, and there's a restfulness that I urge you to try. I just urge you to try it, because whoever we are, God receives, and in the silence, we don't have to say anything about that. So I'm just urging you to try this practice and to make room for it, and to find rest in God in the silent time.